The Allegheny Journal has lucked out. Author Beth Macy, three great New York Times bestsellers behind her, and a former Roanoke Times reporter, joins us today to talk about her. Well, she's going to be at the Historic Masonic Theatre this Thursday. Welcome, Beth.
Thanks for having me back. I love Clifton Forge.
Well, you are the author of the famous Dopesick, and you're well known in the area. And plus, I mean, Beth, how many people start out as a reporter and get a nationally syndicated television series as a result of their book?
That was like a unicorn deal there. I'm so lucky. Most books that get optioned, only 1 out of 10 gets made, and we just threaded the needle and got it done. And I'm so proud that a lot of the far Southwest scenes were shot in your very own Clifton Forge.
Yeah. And it's one thing to be writing articles for a newspaper, but somewhere along the line you said, hey, I can do this book thing. How did that come about?
Well, I had done this fellowship at Harvard. It sounds like I'm dropping the H-bomb, and I am, I guess. But, I came back, and I was just a little bit more confident, and I thought, why not be an author from Roanoke, Virginia? And I had this really great editor named Carol Tarrant at the time at the Roanoke Times, who set me on the story that eventually led to my first book, Factory Man. And pretty much from there on, every book I've done has grown out of some reporting that I had initially done for the Roanoke Times. So these are important national stories, and they impact every place. And I just hate it that most of the news in our country is now manufactured from cities, because I think that's partly responsible for why we're so divided today, is that we no longer have healthy news outlets. I mean, you guys being a great exception in Allegheny, that are covering really important local news.
Well, your hometown was Urbana, and I guess when you came back after a period of time, you weren't very happy with what you found. I think the term you may have used was dramatically hardened. Can you help us out?
Well,
what exactly did that mean?
I started noticing as my mom was getting sicker from dementia, I was on more frequent visits home. I would notice things like Confederate flags flying in my hometown, which is a union. Like, we lost more people per capita as a little small town during the Civil War than many other places. And we were a vibrant stop on the Underground Railroad. And now we have Confederate flags. I'm not saying we didn't have racism. We definitely had racism too. But we were very proud of our Union heritage when I was growing up 40 years ago there. And so not just that, but I started having a hard time having just conversations about anything with my family members still in Ohio without politics coming up. And it was quickly clear to me that we were on opposing sides, and I would ask my brother-in-law John how he was doing, and he would go deplorable and want to start to fight with me. And my brother unfriended me on Facebook because of, quote, all the liberal crap I post. And I post fact-checked articles from the New York Times and the Washington Post, including my own articles. And so we fell out for a while, and then at my mother's deathbed, happened to be the day they were counting the votes when Biden was elected in 2020, and she screamed out, it's fraudulent, you wait, he won't win. And I just thought, what has happened to my hometown, my country, my family, and with mom gone, what's left? And so for 2 years, I went home to Urbana, Ohio. I embedded myself about a week at a time, and I tried to figure out how it had gotten so hardened. And, a lot of that was mental health crisis. A lot of it was remnants of Dopesick, remnants of the opioid crisis, and a lot of childhood trauma from people being raised by parents who were addicted. Mental health emergency calls had gone up, multiplied by 9 since I left 40 years ago. Graduation rate was plummeting. Why was that? So these were all things I was trying to figure out using Urbana as a microcosm for the country.
What happened to local news? I think you mentioned that, you were at one time, then this is the name of your new book, Paper Girl. But what happened to local news?
Barely exists. I mean, the Urbana Daily Citizen that I once delivered so I could have money and go on the class field trip to Washington, D.C. like everybody else.
Didn't we all? Right.
We were very poor. And then later I wrote for as a college intern. I think when I was there, I had 9 reporters, now has 1.5. They don't even cover city council anymore. People just send them in press releases. About all they cover is high school sports. And that's not enough. The newspaper, as you know, can be the glue of the community. And if people don't have that glue available to them, they go to Facebook. And we know that lies spread 6 times faster on social media than facts. And that's data out of MIT. And we see that now in this polarized landscape that we all live in.
Well, we operate a pretty vibrant social media page we call the Allegheny Journal. And I must admit, we have to police the landscape pretty thoroughly. I mean, we try to do all the things that a good local newspaper would do, from obituaries to supervisors, school board, all kinds of city council, that kind of thing.
Approve comments?
Yeah, well, it just depends. It depends on the nature of the piece, but trying to maintain civility at the same time being accurate. And one of the things that, we have a hard and fast rule around here. We all make mistakes, but we fix 100% of any errors that and sometimes it's embarrassing, but and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I don't worry about that. I'm worrying about accuracy and thoroughness, and you're going to have your critics. It's no big deal, but back to you. You're going to be at the Historic Masonic Theatre. You've been there before. It's going to be Thursday at 7 p.m.
Many times.
And believe me, people are excited.
That is so sweet.
Well,
I fought so hard for that show to be shot in Virginia, and I didn't pick out Clifton Forge. I had hoped it would be back in the Lee County, but they didn't have the capacity for putting that many people up. And the show people fell in love with Clifton Forge. And my husband worked on the locations there. He found the mine where Caitlin Deaver gets in her big accident. And when we had the premiere at the Masonic Theater in, I forget what year it was, call it 22. And all these people came out. We had a little red carpet, and they got their picture taken with me. And these sweet people would come up and they would say, "I'm in episode 2 as a coal miner, but I'm also in episode 4 as a waitress." And I didn't realize that people in town played multiple roles as extras, and it was just so fun, and they were so proud of it, and they knew that it was an important story to tell. And I just love coming back, just partly to thank Clifton Forge for being so welcoming to everybody.
I think you're going to have a big crowd, and the name of the book is Paper Girl. I guess you're going to do a book signing maybe after the talk?
Absolutely, yeah. And Joan Van Orsdale, who's arranged all this, she's got an independent bookseller that's going to be there. I love independent booksellers, and it's going to be great.
Well, we're all looking forward to seeing you once again. The book is Paper Girl. And just out of curiosity, you actually did carry the Urbana Citizen.
Are you kidding? Of course I did. I carried it proudly. I started out, I had a crush on these 2 brothers, the Kellenberger brothers, in my neighborhood, and I started out helping them. And then when they retired or went on to a better job, I inherited one of their routes. And Chuck Kellenberger came to my event in Urbana 2 weeks ago. It was really sweet. But I was like, "You got me started on the Paper Girl." And I say, one of the things I like to say is that delivering the newspaper helped me be a reporter, because you had to negotiate with people who all the time who didn't want to pay you on Saturday. I had to collect, and it just made me into a curious, persistent person.
So, and just before we leave, how many venues will you be speaking at, or and having various books? And is it in a huge number in a wide geographic area?
It's growing all the time. I think on the calendar right now, including the ones I've done, it's about 20. And I just got back from Des Moines and St. Louis and Louisville. I was in New York, Ohio, Winston-Salem, Roanoke. I had a great event in Roanoke last Thursday. 400 people, sold out crowd. And these are my people, because I've lived here for 36 years. So it's just great to be in a place where people remember what things I wrote in the Roanoke Times and are still reading me. And I'm just so grateful because I wouldn't be who I am without this place.
Okay, Thursday, Historic Masonic Theater, 7 p.m. Meet the author once again of Paper Girl. And we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you, Jerry. It was a delight.
Bye now.
Bye.